I mean, I don't mean to sound flip about that, because I think actually if the men here, you know, had been born female, they would definitely be feminists, right? If you just think of who, you know, yourself with all the same hopes and dreams and humor and mistakes and, you know, whatever, then you get it. I think empathy is the most revolutionary emotion. Actually, the question I asked myself is what took me so long. Because I was in my early 30s before I understood that just working hard and being obedient wasn't going to cut it. That we needed to have a movement.
I asked a follow-up question on that sort of. I read on your website, it was a link to an interview you did with a Seattle paper. It was a number of years ago. And you say your birth as a feminist came when you heard a lecture on abortion, and it sort of resonated with you. So I'm assuming that was quite a while ago, and now you've had a long career. And I was wondering, have you had any other aha moments that have changed your initial stance on feminism?
Yeah, it was actually it was testimony. It was personal testimony about abortion, and what had happened was that the New York State Legislature was debating. This was before the Supreme Court ruling. So they were debating whether to liberalize the New York State abortion law, and they had a hearing in which they invited 14 men and 1 nun to testify. So a group of early feminists held a hearing, and I went to that hearing. You know, one of the most exciting, interesting things about social justice movement is about once a week you have an aha. You know, you go, oh, that's why. You know, imagine that. Now I realize, you know, why that is. And that deepens it, I think. You know, I mean, the one that comes to mind is not worthy, perhaps, because it's a little silly, but I was having a long discussion with somebody who believes in channeling. You know what channeling is? You know, that the dead speak. Okay, I don't, but it was a very respectful, interesting argument that we were having. And out of that, I suddenly realized that women channel men. So I went back and researched it and wrote a whole article about it, you know, because here, you know, I mean, to quote a real case, you're a housewife, you know, and nobody's paying attention to you, but you become a 5,000-year-old warrior named Ramtha and speaking in front of people listening. Well, how great is that? I'm not saying it's conscious, I don't know that, but I think the politics of channeling is fascinating. I kept looking for men who channeled women, and the only one I found was, because I did find some men who channeled men, but also always more powerful men than they were, right? Which is political in itself. But I could only find one guy in Paris, a gay man, who channeled Gertrude Stein. That was the only one. So, you know, there are these moments of aha. To give an example of a much more serious one, I've been reading, as we all have been reading, all the stories and stories and stories about people who go into public places and shoot, you know, people they don't know for no reason. And I started to think about all the crimes in which there's nothing to gain. I mean, the people who commit these crimes do not gain anything. No money, nothing, no pair of sneakers, you know, nothing. Domestic violence, serial killing, so-called senseless killing, going into public places and so on. So I started to look at who does these things, and they're overwhelmingly men, white, and not poor. They're overwhelmingly the people who, through no fault of theirs, got born into a system that said they had a right to control other people. And they've gotten addicted to this, you know, and so to establish control, take domestic violence cases in which the man will stalk or and murder an ex-lover, or even his wife and children and then kill himself anymore. So I decided it was clear that they're all supremacy crimes. You know, they're really about proving supremacy, and I hope that the press is better about identifying, because with the so-called senseless killings in schools, the headline said things like, "What's happening to our children?" Excuse me, it's not our children. None of them were done by women. None of them were done by African American or Puerto Rican kids or what, you know, it was 100% in those cases. You know, male, white, non-poor people. We just